I would like to call up onto the stage the CEO of Blue Space, Samuel Amano, to take up the next session. Samuel, thank you so much, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. You cannot survive in Ghana without using money, right? You can't survive. You can sell Kofi Brookman, but you still need to pay for it. You could basically ask your brother or your auntie in Germany to send you some coins, and you may have to work with Mr. Z-Pay to make sure it gets to the right wallet. And if you are very smart with suits and stuff and you need to work with a bank, you have likes of Stanbic Bank, who's covering the African continent. But without further ado, I want to share a few things with you. That the banking industry is warming up. As you can see, government is very excited to move into a realm where everything we do is digital, including your money. How many of you know why? If I can monitor your money, I can tax you, right? So we're going to get more money for the government. We're going to improve our infrastructure. Things are going to go in a better way like what we see in the West. But there's a case for financial inclusion. The guys who live in the far-flung cities don't have the same infrastructure. They don't have access to the cool things that we have in the cities. And we think that also needs to be addressed. So I'm going to have a few thought leaders in their own right to join me on stage. How can we improve financial inclusion? How can we improve the payment systems? How can we improve the remittance frameworks and infrastructure we have? As you guys know, we receive about $2 billion+ into Ghana. It's huge. The mobile money payment ecosystem has moved about, what, $40 billion. As you saw, it was 230 billion cedis. So it's a lot of money moving around in our ecosystem. Now, every startup in here, you will need a bank. You need some loans, you need some credit, you need to make some payments to your suppliers. You need the likes of Visa to help you.
My name is Martin Obienje. I take care of Vodafone Cash and Vodafone Mobile Financial Services in Ghana.
Excellent. You're so good.
I think it's important MTN goes first.
My name is Abdul Majid Rufai. I'm the senior manager in charge of commercial at Mobile Money.
All right.
Introduce myself.
Yes, you can.
My name is Andrew Techafia. I work for Z-Pay. Z-Pay is a carrier for remittances into mobile money wallets. We're licensed in Europe across 28 countries, and in Africa we're in 20 countries.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Adama Pepra. I am the country manager for Visa. So I look after the Visa franchise here in Ghana. So as Sam said, it's not Visa card to America or the States.
If you need a visa to go to America, see her.
I get that a lot. No, it's really around enabling digital payments, and I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you.
My name is Renel Bedu. I'm the manager for payments at Stanbic Bank Ghana Limited. On industry payments, remittances, and a bit of card issue and merchant acquiring as well.
Excellent. So basically, where are we now in the payment space? As you can tell, the government has done a lot of work trying to put some structure in place to enable us to do things properly. If you do a transaction today and unfortunately it doesn't go well, who do you report that to, right? You need an ecosystem, a framework to be able to have the players and the referee to govern that particular industry. Everybody here watches soccer. You can see it's well structured. And payments game is also a structured game. It's happening globally. About 2.1 billion people are using their mobile phones to do wallet-based payments. Today in the US, I can travel without any money in my pocket, and I'll be fine. If you travel in Accra and you happen to be in Sunyani or Cape Coast for the year of return, and you don't have your wallet with some CDs in there, you're going to be in very, very big trouble. There are two things that will happen to you. The network might not be working well, so you may not be able to do the mobile money transaction. Or maybe the person you're dealing with does not receive mobile money. So, oh, we don't accept mobile money here. So let's start, Mr. Andrew. You've been quite active in the whole remittance play, the last mile. You've been active. I remember about 4 or 5 years ago, I used to see red kiosks all over the city with, we receive mobile money here, we do this kind of bill payments here. What's happening in the whole expansive network to reach the guys who are not tapped into today?
Okay. So thank you very much, Blue Space. I don't want to take it from a preamble from this morning. I like Ikichi's presentation a lot. So look at a market that, if we look at his presentation, you can see that about 50% of the market has a mobile phone, right? Unique users. That also starts to tell you the reason why we have about 13.1 million mobile wallets, about 4 million bank cards. Okay, well, then if you take it forward, if you look from that perspective, you also start to realize that the market itself also is quite deep, and the payment industry in Ghana is projected to hit 100 billion. This is consumer to merchant, not peer-to-peer. So this is hardcore. I'm at a retail point, I'm making a payment, etc. It's estimated to the 100 billion next year. Okay, so why are we with that, and how are we going to get there? I think this is what it's all about. From why I said, if I look at my crystal ball and the analysis in front of us, what's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years is going to be a very multi-led approach. So we're going to be very instrument-driven. Instruments, obviously, mobile money wallets, bank cards, to some extent bank accounts based on which API you're using. But it's so interesting. We're moving fast forward, leapfrogging into a social media, social enterprise platform, where all transactions will be driven off social enterprises like Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, Telegram, etc. And these instruments will just be the layers for which we make payments. And through that, we're going to see a different interesting trajectory. Because if you look at all the numbers in front of us, today, the ecosystem in Ghana, the youth sit in the middle and represent about 60%. So you have adoption immediately. And there's going to be a natural renaissance. I think from a regulatory standpoint, today we've got the right framework from the Payments Act. A few things that I wouldn't have wanted to mention, but I have to mention because I'm on your platform. It's going to be very price-led. And there's not so much pricing from consumer, but there's going to be supply-based pricing. And I think regulators are setting a new pricing framework. There's a policy, there's almost like an ombudsman that's going to chair that and drive that discussion. So there's going to be a lot of fair play, there's going to be a lot of support, and that will also help to quantum the growth, coupled with the flexibility of the Payments Act. So I see that's what I see going to happen.
Wow, so there's a lot of momentum building up based on what you've just said. 100 billion is a lot of money, right? And you can't trade money without the old age financial infrastructure that was set up eons ago. And the old age infrastructure is what we call a bank, right? So from a banking perspective, Renel, where do you see banks playing a role in this whole evolution of payments, both the consumer and the SME or the corporate or the large corporate? You know, payments is beginning to take center stage.
Yeah, that's true. So payments and banking essentially is the driver when it comes to payments, or at least that's what we think. Facilitating the movement of cash, but you realize that over the past couple of years, it has changed. People are no longer interested in just the traditional banking as it has always been, right? It's no longer about opening a current or savings account and saving money there, hoping that you would get a loan. By the time you are done, apologies, but by the time you are done with that, you would have already lost a customer to other innovative services like what ZPay and the other fintechs are doing. So there's a lot going on in the banking space, and the traditional systems no longer hold, right? So what we need to do right now is to do sort of a deep dive as banking into the pain points, essentially understanding what the customers out there want and need, and seeing how best to provide those services. For example, you cannot, as a bank, still take 2 weeks, 2 months and whatnot, analyzing a customer and seeing whether they qualify for a certain loan, when there are fintechs out there that are willing to give them loans in a day, payable by end of day and whatnot. So there's a lot going on out there that we need to understand to be able to make the most out of what can be delivered. So
essentially, banks have to be nimble and fast and agile, just like the fintechs are doing.
Definitely, and seamless in our operations, right? People do not want to feel like they have to hold on for a while or go through certain stringent procedures to be able to access basic financial needs.
It looks like the millennials and the social, the guys who are in love with the social networks of the world, they sort of glean more towards this new fintechs than the traditional banks. Are the banks going to be dead in the next maybe 10 years?
Well, so it's an interesting question. The traditional, like I said, the traditional banking itself, in a sense, may not be what it is in 10 years' time, right? I don't expect, for example, in 10 years, I don't really expect to hear people saying, I'm going to the bank, because you would virtually be able to have all those services at your fingertips.
But Google and Amazon and those guys are coming really fast.
They are.
So where would the banks be and where would the fintechs be in the next few years?
So then I guess
because Ghanaians are on, basically there's a lot of capital flight happening already. If I procure Netflix, I use my Visa card. If I subscribe to the service, right, I'm using my Visa card basically to pay for that service, right?
Yes.
You are being powered by Visa.
We are.
And all of a sudden, a cryptocurrency comes along and says, you don't need all these traditional rails. I have a better platform for you. How are the banks going to play a role in it?
It's a very tough space, to be honest with you. And there's a lot of
Reduce your
learning.
fees. Thank you. All right. So I was really pushing it. I know it was a very hard question. I just wanted to get some momentum going from your side. And Adoma, you were very new in Ghana. Adoma basically came back from South Africa, where the economy there is quite developed. You are leading the mobile adoption on the charts that the GSMA guy showed. But in Ghana, we're also coming really fast. I was just in South Africa last week, in Cape Town to be precise. And they couldn't do certain things that we could do here really quick. So it looks like we're going to take over Africa from a Ghana perspective. Where is Visa heading to in this whole payment space? Should cryptos eat your money, or the mobile money guy sitting next to you going to eat your lunch?
Sam, thank you very, very much. I was actually in SA this past weekend. So, Sam teases me a lot about my accent. I lived in South Africa for a very, very long time. I've just recently moved to Ghana. I moved beginning of the year. And when I came to Ghana, my whole thing was that I've come from a space where all I needed was just my card. And so oftentimes I still try and see how far I can get with just my card. And yes, a lot of times it's not very far. It's not very far at all. But what has helped as well, for me specifically, is really my mobile banking app, where with the whole mobile money interoperability, where there's mobile money, I can make payments, right? We saw in the GSMA's charts around how mobile is just really revolutionizing things in Ghana. Ghana is the fastest growing mobile money network, I guess you could say, in Africa and in the world, right? And so mobile is where things are at. And so from a Visa perspective, we're looking at developing solutions on the mobile. So some of you would probably have heard a year ago, it was November last year, we launched a QR code-based solution, Visa on Mobile, where you can actually just, on the flick of your phone, be able to make merchant payments. So this is one of the innovations we're trying to do from a mobile perspective. And also we realized, and I think that was one of the reasons I came to Ghana as well, is that we needed to be closer to our clients, right? And our various clients were traditionally banks, not necessarily anymore, increasing a lot of fintechs. And we need to bring solutions that are relevant. And I don't know all the answers, so we partner with fintechs who do, right? So the likes of ExpressPay, Flutterwave, Paystack, who know the environment very well, and you work with them in order to be able to develop solutions that are relevant. One of the things we did from a Visa perspective as well is that we have a Visa Everywhere initiative, which looks at fintechs and looks at the next big thing in payments. And we did our first Visa Everywhere initiative in Sub-Saharan Africa last year. Amazing. We got about 200 fintechs that sent some really, really well thought out proposals addressing a lot of payment issues, and so these are some of the things that we're trying to do from a mobile perspective, because we just, like I said, we don't have the answers. We are all about innovation, collaboration, and partnering with the right people.
So you're here to stay, basically. We're not going to kill the business.
No, not at all.
Excellent. And I have two powerful telco players who are also, telcos are quite interesting. they say they deliver voice services and connectivity, and all of a sudden they know where the money's at. So they've all shifted to where the money's at. And I think Vodafone Cash, I think everybody knows M-Pesa, right? So if you could share a little bit more, since the launch of Vodafone Cash in Ghana, what have you seen? Obviously, we have giants like MTN on stage with you. He's going to take the last hard question. But what's happened to your ecosystem, both on the financial inclusion side and mainstream adoption?
Okay, so I think, like you rightly said, the mobile telephonies were really set up for communication, right? To give voice and data communication. But you just realize that access is one of the most important things when you come to any form of inclusion, right? And accessibility meant that because we had the network, we had the customer base all the way down to the most rural of areas, there were things that the traditional banks couldn't deliver. I mean, if you put all the banks together and you look at their total branch network, it's probably not 1/10 of the total mobile money ecosystem we have today. And mobile money is not about the technology, it's about the network, right? So the technology here is what enables, but the access is what makes it what it is. So since the launch of Vodafone Cash just 3 years ago, we've seen the evolution, right? It starts with people testing the network, testing the capability to make sure it works. Now, one of the things that really affected the adoption of mobile money in this country was because of the failure of some of the things that happened, like unit transfer, if you all remember that. Because when people transferred, if you bought a unit transfer from a vendor, sometimes it didn't go through, and then maybe it delivered twice later on, and then the vendor lost, and then the customer also lost hope. So it took quite some time for people to trust the system with their money. So what they started doing was to try and start buying airtime on your own network. So it's me to you on you. So if it fails...
Wait, repeat that. Me to you
on you.
Okay.
Exactly. So I'm buying airtime with money on your network, but you have to provide it. And if it fails, it's you I'm holding accountable. After that evolution, people realized that it was working, and then they move on to the next thing, which is send money. So they try to send money to other people, and it works. And then the evolution is now going on. So now there's IMT happening. People are sending money from abroad to Ghana because nobody really wants to go to the bank on a Saturday, or the banks are closed. But the money has to be received on a Sunday, and it has to be used to pay a bill in Kolebu that same time. So time, space, and technology have come together to make this seamless, right? Because with Andrew in my corner, I can reliably inform the guys on the other side that you can send money and it can be received, and then the doctor can have the operation done. So we've seen the evolution is going on, but what's going to happen next, if you ask me, and how things are going to change, is going to be about how we are going to infuse in the world. In the fourth digital, in the fourth industrial revolution, technology is leading the way. But what mobile money has done in Africa and in Ghana, for that matter, is that it has bridged the gap between demand and supply. Because the supply was there, the suppliers were there, customers were there, but there was something lagging in between. So you either had to go there physically to make payments, and then or you have to go physically to collect your product. Today, like Jack Ma said, mobile money, electronic transactions have enabled and enhanced trust. So I can send money to somebody I don't know, and they can send a dispatch rider I don't know to deliver a product to me, right? So that has become seamless. But how do we now get into the next level? The Amazons of this world, the Alibabas, the WeChats of this world. How is Ghana positioning itself in such a way that you can stay in the comfort of your home, not have a bank account, but have a mobile wallet, which resides in a bank account anyway, but still be able to facilitate those transactions? Once things become seamless, people are looking at now having transactions done whilst they are still doing their WhatsApp. Whilst I am looking at my Instagram photo, I remember I have to pay somebody, and inside that app, I don't have to leave, but I can make a transaction happen also there because of a certain integration. So that's where we're going. And mobile phones have become the most powerful tools today in Africa and in Ghana, for that matter. That small screen has become the most powerful asset that we have. And increasingly, we are going to use it to the next level. So there's going to be a lot of disruptions happening, a lot of integrations are going to happen. But one of the big bedrocks, like Adoma said, is the collaboration.
So collaboration is everything, basically.
Absolutely.
Right? So
absolutely.
you as a telco, you're working with the bank. You're also working with ZPay to enable the last mile. The last question, Mr. Majid. It looks like we're all sitting around here, 13 million wallets, blah, blah, blah. You're the big dog in the room, right? How are we going to trust that you're not going to mess things up for us down the line and lure all of us into this network and start increasing fees like the likes of the banks that we have on say? Are we really going to, because trust, you said trust, Jack Pan mentioned trust, right? It's really, really cool that we have trust in collaboration, Uber rides, here and there, food deliveries. But all of a sudden, we have MTN slowly, as a telco, evolving to be a bank. Beyond payments, are you going to be a bank? Are you going to just do the same thing, maintain, competitiveness so that the marketplace will be easily monitored, so nobody's going to screw up anybody?
Interesting, Sam. We are not going to set up a bank. Well,
this has been answered, guys. The media guys, you can hear it. MTN is not going to be a bank.
For us at MTN, for the past 10 years, in fact, we celebrated our 10 years this year. And what we've done over the years has always been investments in the space when nobody believed in it. And I mean, a lot of people did not know when we started in 2009 up to 2015, there were executives within MTN who thought mobile money is just a call center. We should shut it down. Okay? But it took the boldness of a CEO who said, no, we can't come this far and just chicken out. It has happened in Kenya. We can also do it. And interestingly, in 2015, by the end of 2015, that's when we started seeing the growth. And for us, there is no way we are going to cannibalize anybody. What we have done has always been collaboration. Collaboration is really what has gotten us here. We cannot do a savings product without collaborating with the bank. We couldn't have done a loan product without collaborating with the bank and fintech. We couldn't have done international remittance without collaborating with people like ZPay. We couldn't have done interoperability without collaborating with our colleagues at Vodafone Cash, Airtel Money. So it has always been collaboration. Last year I was here and I mentioned the fact that we're going to open up and bring up an open API. And today I'm happy to say there is an open API that we have launched that anybody can have, any developer can have access to it. Just visit our website. You can have access to all the APIs and do all the collaborations and integrations that you need to do. That is really for us the way to go. And that's why we have opened the space up for everybody to have a share of the space.
One last word from each of you, what the future of payments looks like for you in your ecosystem, and then we'll open up for questions. If you have your question, just one or two questions, and then we'll end the discussion. So from your end, if you don't mind. Yes.
Just seamless.
Seamless, frictionless, seamless, okay?
I'll say two. Data and security.
Data and security.
Collaboration.
Collabo.
I'll take frictionless, and it has everything in it.
After Adoma, I'll take three: speed, simplicity, and trust.
Speed, simplicity, and trust. Now let's hear from the audience if they have questions that will address some of the things they've been thinking about. Any questions from the audience? All right, we have a question over there. Please, your name and which company you work with.
I'm Neil London. I'm a lecturer at the University of Ghana. Last year, I came back to Ghana, and from China, I started in China. In China, I could go like 2 weeks, 3 weeks without cash because I was using WeChat, I was using Alipay. Even in the market, you go the market women, some of whom even can't read or write, but at least they have QR codes printed out for them beside their tomatoes, onions, and stuff like that. You just scan, show it to them, I've paid, and all that. And for me, it was a big shift, you know, coming home, and I'm like, what are the telcos doing with the Momo? Momo transfer across like the same network with the same digital currency, I believe should be free. Okay, because what WeChat is doing is, if I send someone else money on WeChat, it's free. You don't pay anything. So my question is, what are the telcos, what do they have in mind regarding making, electronic transactions free on the same platform? Thank you.
Excellent. Matthias, you want to take?
As a point of information, you'll be happy to know that sending money from Vodafone Cash to another Vodafone wallet is free. It is free today, right? For the other things that he spoke about payment, QR coding, and so on and so forth, I think what has been the barrier has been the cost that is involved in either acquiring those POS machines, acquiring the phones for the market women, and so on and so forth. So access has been an issue. It's unfortunate the deputy minister is not here, but these are the kind of things that we need government support in because of the journey we are on, right? We should have certain forms of investment that go to support and solidify the efforts that we are doing today, because we'll be playing on the top, but we need the base. And those things, if for instance, government was sponsoring certain POS devices, barest minimum, and is cut across, fully interoperable to receive card and mobile payments and everything, people today will be happy to receive those payments. If government was giving, for instance, tax rebates on monies that were received electronically, just because they can be able to monitor and then be able to tax properly, why won't people do it? So government has the biggest stick and has the biggest carrot. So we expect that as we do our part, we are individual companies, we work to make profits, but government has to give us that level of support because of what the ecosystem seeks to gain. So I think that we should get some level of support, deep support also from the government to be able to come.
I think Andrew also has a point to make on this, or? Okay. Go ahead.
So just to mention on the QR code, QR code is really, in the payment space, QR code is really the way to go. There has been introduction of NFC, but NFC has always been very expensive to deploy. So I agree QR code is the way to go. Fortunately, by January, we'll have our QR code launch. And then, apart from that, in the spirit of collaboration, the kind of things we are also doing in the area of QR code, the likes of Visa, who have introduced the QR code, is also a collaboration where if you have a mobile money wallet, if you see any Visa QR code, you should be able to make payment. If you see any other QR code, you should be able to make payment. That is really what will transform the environment for us. In the area of making P2P free, yes, in the area of WeChat for payments, I agree payment, when it comes to payment, yes, consumers should have payment for free. In the payment ecosystem, it's really the merchants who are really bearing the cost, and consumers should bear it for free. But P2P, there are infrastructure costs involved in P2P as well. So for P2P, it will take time for P2P to evolve as free product. But for payment, yes, it will be free.
Just to add on, I also feel that a lot of the time, we just don't have a lot of consumer education out there, because a lot of these products are out there. Sometimes some of them are in beta, some of them are actually in live, but users just don't know. Then there's also an adoption issue. If you talk about WeChat, that's what I mean, that look, if you look at Ghana, for example, what I'm talking about, social enterprises and social platforms, that is a WeChat platform. Being able to make payments on a social media platform. It might not be in-app like WeChat, it might be keyboard-driven, or it might be baseline-driven, but they exist. I mean, we in Europe today have about 4,000 users. We're running a beta in Spain where you can make payments on Telegram, on WhatsApp, and I think on LinkedIn. So it's out there. It's just a function of time. You know, I mean, the likes of Visa makes it possible, because once the instrument, or even MTN Wallet, once the instrument is authorized in a specific market, then you can use it to make a payment. So at that point, it's more like you provided an online platform that allows you to transmit.
So financial literacy is really one of the hurdles then?
I think so. I think it's not.
And last week, I think Jack Ma was in town. So the Chinese are coming, guys. There's a lot of awareness that's being given to Ghana. And without a doubt, the social landscape or digital landscape is evolving, and I think just maybe in the next 2 years or so, we'll arrive at some of these maturity stages that you talked about. Any other questions?
Refunds and trust. The word trust, what is the mechanism that is being put in place to ensure that trust between the say a P2P between two people? So for instance, if I'm sending money to you for a service, what's the trust mechanism put in place to ensure that the reason why I'm sending that money to you, it's fulfilled? Yeah.
I come in. So look, it's a very interesting point he's raised. I think let's take it to the center stage. The Payment Systems Act is a wonderful act. The idea of the act is to come in and be the referee and be the center stage to make sure the trust is built. I also believe that a payment is not successful unless it can be reversed. A payment is not successful unless it can be reversed. An instrument is not an instrument unless it has a reverse functionality on it. But central bank is coming up with all these consumer protection laws or acts. They're coming up with all these different things that is going to enforce the trust required. Because the players on their own would always set the frameworks. But the central bank as a referee or a player will make sure that exists. I also want to say that over the last 5 years, I personally have seen a lot of investment, not necessarily financial, but even resource, from the telcos especially, just to make sure that all these things are in place. Today, when we started business 5 years ago, reversals was a headache. Today, it's a no-brainer. Do you see what I mean? And I know that we're going to a place where very soon a reversal can actually happen within a matter of a minute. But I also want to say that the consumer has a role to play. And it's critical. I say this on every platform. It's critical we understand that as a consumer, you also have obligations. You cannot hold money that is not yours. So you have a fiduciary responsibility as well. So reversal is not as a function of the provider of the instrument, but it's also a function of the consumer as well. But yes, I agree with Dennis, and I think that Ghana we're almost leapfrogging so fast to the point where all of this will be so center stage. Next year is going to be very exciting.
If I can just add to it, if you make a payment via card rails, there's something called a chargeback that you can raise, right? So you can go to your bank and say, I didn't receive the goods, or the goods I received were defective, and they can challenge the merchant's bank. And then you have a certain number of months where you can actually dispute this, and they will investigate it. And if you found that your good was indeed defective or you didn't actually receive it, you can get your money back.
So you have a couple of months to get your money back, buddy. Okay? But you want to add some points to that?
Yeah, just a very quick one. I think, like Andrew said, when it comes to payments, right, if you look at those of us here at this table, what we do essentially is to facilitate payments, right? And the obligation is also on the consumer. So if you're buying something or you're making a payment, there are terms and conditions to it. Let me give an example. Sometime in June, I made a payment with American Express for a hotel facility in France, right? I couldn't get a visa because of issues, processing issues. But when I was selecting the hotel and the price, what I went and clicked on was a non-refundable payment. And I didn't pay attention to it. And I lost $1,800. American Express, everybody knows American Express. When it comes to the customer, they are number one. They will not pay if the customer says so. But the hotel was able to prove with every piece of document that I clicked on a non-refundable payment. And today I didn't get my money back. I bear the cost. But that doesn't mean American Express is bad because they facilitated the payment. But you have to know exactly what you are paying for.
So you have to read.
Exactly.
So those of you that are not reading yet on those fine details, MTN, do you have fine print on your payment services?
Only reading. You just have to investigate the merchants that you are buying from. It's very, very important that you always need to check with the merchant that you are buying for and be sure that merchant is trustworthy before you can part away with your money.
It's quite interesting, right, about what you just said. I booked a room in London on Airbnb, got to London, came to find out that the guy who posted the property just was a 419 guy. And he's just posted a new facility, right? Mm-hmm. And the comments on his facility were all off. Called Airbnb, it was back and forth, and apparently with Airbnb, you need the merchant's permission to decline that they are no longer going to serve you that service before they refund you. We managed to get the guy on the line. We're standing at the train station like refugees, right? And it was really, really bad. So your point, Abdul, is that the merchant's credibility is very, very important.
Exactly.
The merchant's credibility is so, so important.
For me, it still doesn't take away his point. He has a very valid point, but it's almost like a three-way game. The consumer, the merchant, the provider. Everybody has a part to play. The provider has its frameworks. The terms and conditions are very clear. The merchant, unfortunately, would have been onboarded and would have passed the onboarding, but it's a character issue. You even have it on Amazon. There are some merchants who won't ship, neither will they refund. Do you see what I mean? So I think that we here, and we're quite influential in the ecosystem, we just need to be inclusive, collaborative, and make sure that all these frameworks were helping the central bank to adopt them to protect the consumer. And the consumer fiduciary responsibility should be well addressed, because the consumer too has a role to play in this.
It looks like we need a merchant police almost.
As you mentioned, QR codes, right? Visa's launched, I'm sure Stanbic has one, a couple of other banks have one. The telcos will launch, like Abdul Majid said. But recently, we also heard that the government's about to launch a universal QR code. Now, from the panel speakers, from your perspective, what does that mean to you? And I'd like you to also add an educative, angle to it for us here as well as for the public.
Let me start with that unified QR code. What unified QR code just means is that if you have a QR code, irrespective of who provides that QR code, it means anywhere you are, if you have a Visa, if you have a mobile money wallet, you can just pay. You just don't need to know whoever is providing that payment platform. As long as that QR code is available, you can make that payment. That's what unified QR code means. But at this stage, it's a discussion that is ongoing. It's not something that has been finalized yet. It's on the table, that is up for discussion. But I'm sure we'll get there. For me, the good thing about unified QR code is the fact that, you don't need, if you have an MTN QR code, you don't need to go to only MTN merchant to make payments.
So basically, we're talking about QR code interoperability.
That's what it means.
An inclusive approach.
That's what it means.
Yeah, so I just want to add to it. So when it comes to QR codes, just like it's been said, the issue of collaboration really comes here into play. So it's important that even as industry players, that we find a way to ensure that that ecosystem that enables this payment option to thrive is actually in there, and that we can utilize it in terms of making it available to all customers. So customers, irrespective of which wallet or which bank account that they are using, should be able to access the service, whether it's on Visa, it's on MTN, ZPay, whatever, right? Like Majid said, that they don't need to know that, okay, so if I go to a merchant, for now, I see all these payment options available. And it's like I have to be on a certain service. I have to have a certain wallet to be able to use. So if the services there do not include the wallet that I'm utilizing, then obviously I cannot make any payments on there. And that's one of the challenges that we need to address by collaborating amongst ourselves to improve the ecosystem.
Excellent. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate your inputs. And my audience, you've been fantastic. And we look forward to seeing you next year on my panel.